Now, you idiots do know there's a difference between fantasizing about a teenage girl and actually being with one, right? Right. Or were you born yesterday? I know. Seriously, I know. What's wrong with you where an adult can't fantasize about something and kind of talk about it on YouTube as a fantasy, you know? Right, right. Don't you see the problem with that? Right. You're acting like I know a 16-year-old girl. I don't. I just tell you the legal age of consent in Georgia is 16, right? I don't know nobody 16 coming over to my house. I keep telling you that too. I know. You're freaking out over a fantasy, right? Don't you know that's not reality? I know. The Bible don't say you can't fantasize either. No, it don't. Right. If David had fantasized about Bathsheba instead of being with her, he would have been just fine, wouldn't he? Because he's not really with her. He had enough women to begin with, and it's not like he needed one more. But he took her anyway, didn't he? I know. That's the whole problem there, I know. And she was another man's wife, and I'm sure she told him when he brought her to the chamber, whenever that was, right? That she was a married woman, and he took her anyway. I mean, come on. That's akin to raping her, right? While her husband is at war. And I believe she protested very much vehemently, right? And didn't want to be with him herself, right? And I bet, even though it's not written in the story, she was raped by him. Now, what's the difference between what I'm talking about to you and reality? In reality, I'm not even really supposed to be with nobody. Right. Right now, the last person I was with was Molly Z in 2008. Right. What's your problem? No. Are you such a control freak that you want to control what somebody even fantasizes about? No. Like, I'm really going to go after a 16-year-old girl or even know any? Right. And what do you think is going to happen at the theater? They're going to run off and go into the bathroom with me? That's a fantasy. There's nothing wrong with a healthy fantasy life, Christians, right? Or you're becoming worse than Satan, right? Even Jesus knows about fantasy, I bet, more than you do, but more than you do. Like using the woman at the well as well. But not judging her relationship problems, right? But treating her like a daughter of God, right? Any way, even though she was with 6 men, right? Now, if he was the 7th or not, no one wants to talk about that, right? Though, unlike other places, he hung out there 2 days, right? After he met her. And he was sitting there at Jacob's well where Jacob met Rachel. That funny. That funny. I think Jesus hung around for her. Whether you want to believe it or not. And you're self righteous. What, Jesus being the Messiah can't have a concubine or two? Seriously? Seriously. That's an unmarried woman he had sex with, by the way. And she was divorced 5 times and just living with another dude at that point. Right. But who are you to say they weren't together? Right. The only one you can ask, okay, is Jesus, right? Or the woman herself. Huh? See, it's a story written by one of his apostles, right? That one we know happened, right? There's no reason for him not to have met the woman of Samaria at the well. Whatever her name may be as well. We don't know that either. John didn't think that important to tell us her name either. But that's his Jewish mindset, right? How he looked at women. Which shows he's an a-hole towards women too. You get it? I know. I don't think Jesus struck up a conversation just because he knew he was the Messiah either, right? They're talking about water, right? And living water. And you don't get that conversation unless you had sex, right? Well, that water might would be. I know. Do you Christians, right? I know. You know, there's no watering substance that comes out of the male and goes into the female, huh? That goes over your head, don't it? No, it goes over your head. Why? Because you're carnal Christians, right? You think the Lord didn't have sex. Never. And it freaks you out if you found out he did, huh? I know. Well, maybe John wasn't around when they had sex, huh? Like, you know, you're going to hang out with your disciples all night and not sneak off with the woman. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I know what you mean. Really. I bet he didn't worry about all that ritualistic cleansing or washing himself after sex and being unclean in the evening. Mess either, I know. If he was with her, by the way. Yeah. Yeah, Now, if the woman had sex with 5 men and was living with a dude, but no baby was around her, what do you think he's talking about? Mm-hmm. And what do you think Isaiah means when he says 7 women shall take hold of 1 man, say, we'll eat our own bread and wear our own apparel, only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. What back then would be a reproach for a woman? Not to have a child. Right. Though, too. She would be technically barren like Rachel. Mm-hmm. And who? Sarah. Mm-hmm. Rebecca was a little barren, I guess. Yes, right. Whatever's going on with her, too. But she, too, has fraternal twins like Eve. Wonder who the father of Esau is. But you can't get past the story itself, can you? Right. You only see what the author told you, right, and wrote down. Right. And why is that? Because you're carnal about it. Right. You're not thinking, well, what would Rebecca do if she's having problems having a child with Isaac, even though she's not a virgin? Right. Might she try Ishmael? I don't know. But it's possible. That she was with both Isaac and Ishmael. Mm-hmm. And Esau was Ishmael's and Jacob was Isaac's, right? You don't want to think about it like that, huh? Why'd she have to go to the Lord about it too, right? Rebecca's the only woman to go to the Lord on her own, by the way, in the Old Testament, I know. Besides Deborah or Huldah. I know. There's 3 women, though, who went to the Lord on their own. Rebecca's one of them, by the way. Damn. You're not even thinking about it right now. Men are so carnalizing you from sex. They're like, we're not going to have it in the resurrection. I doubt that, by the way. We're flesh and blood creatures. We're designed to have sex, right? The only one who wouldn't want us to procreate would be the devil and his angels. Right? Why do you think? They're trying to wipe us out and take over the planet for themselves. Right? But in doing that, they're destroying the very habitat they want to live in. Right? Because they're not supposed to be here now. Right? Even if they were here in the past or whatever's going on. Right? Something's going on. Right? Where they're acting up like Satan. No. And fruit of the body in the Old Testament is your seed or your offspring. Male, female, or hermaphrodite, by the way. I know. And that's the point. That's the whole point. If you don't listen, you're full of it. Not God. Not the Bible. Mm-hmm. You're not thinking about it in human terms either, right? What's wrong with Esau being the firstborn and Jacob the secondborn, right? Is it that he simply sold his birthright to Jacob? Mm-hmm. Or that Jacob dressed up like his brother and got the blessing anyway? I mean, come on, right? What more to it is there that doesn't meet the eye? Right? Damn. Yeah, there's got to be something more going on there than you think, right? Than the author wrote down about the story. Maybe he didn't know what really happened either, right? He just was telling you what he was told about it, right? That don't mean the Lord don't know what happened and why when Rebecca went to him, he told her the older shall serve the younger, right? Exactly. And that's kind of like with Ishmael and Isaac as well. There's got to be something wrong, something we don't know about in the script itself that Rebecca knew about, that the Lord knew about, but Isaac didn't know. Damn. Right. I know. But you don't want to think about it that way. Any story that's historic or not, there might be more details that wasn't written down. Right? You're not thinking about it that way. You're not talking about it. What is he talking about when he's talking about living water to the woman? Right? At the well. That might be going over your head. That might be going over your head. But it ain't too late to get your mind back on reality. Or discern fantasy from reality even. That's what we're talking about here, right? But you don't know he's not sexual, right? Either he's in the flesh. And John said not everything he did was written down. So if you was with 7 women, would the disciples write that down or not? No. I guess they didn't. Because they didn't name the 7 women he was with. And I'm sure more than 7 women were around him at one point. I don't think he had sex with them all, but maybe a select few he did. Right. Because you are made religious about it, like you even know. Right. When you don't know. Right. That's what you can't understand. You don't know what happened 300 years later, Catholics. Though you call yourself Catholics. Right. Yet you're carnal about the idea of the Messiah having more than one lover. Or not being legally married to a woman. Right. Which in Israel is called having a concubine. Right. Who's not really married to you, but not really old enough, like the woman at the well, to sleep with you or not, right? She's already living with the dude, by the way, and not married to him either. Why not just sleep with Jesus too, huh? Right. Ever thought about it that way, huh? Damn. That's all I'm saying, right? Is you're not thinking about it, right? In Jesus's and her perspective, only reason we know about it is it was written down in the Gospel of John by John, right? That story we know is written down, by the way. The one in question is the one in chapter 8 anyway, so that's the woman caught in adultery with the guy she was caught with, but didn't bring him forward, right? When both were supposed to be stoned, by the way, according to Moses' law, right? That's what I keep telling you too, right? Two people can't have sex if they don't have sex, unless they both had sex. Consensually too, right? That's another problem you have. Consent is the girl saying yes or no to the sex, right? During the encounter. Wherever the sex was done, in the bathroom or in the office area, whatever. I'm just making that part up as part of a fantasy as to why I lost time, right? But only the girl knows what we really did during the extra hour I lost, right? Not so much as me and the other women in the store, right? Of course, right? But not so much as me, you know. That's kind of the whole point, too, about a fantasy versus reality. No. See, that's what Hollywood is selling you, a fantasy, right? Exactly. But you're buying into the fantasy sometimes almost like it's reality, because they, too, mix fantasy with reality. Right. But you can't take that too far. Mm-hmm. You still got to live in the real world. Right. Even they do too, right? And deal with the real problems in the real world, right? And that's really everybody, by the way. But then you let Hollywood do it, you let other people do it, but Jesus can't do it too, right? Jesus can't have 7 lovers and not get married at all. No. Sure he could. No. He was just a player. That's what we would call him today, a player if he had 7 moons. And he might have had them one at a time, too, if you understand what I mean. The woman at the well was still in Samaria when he met her at the well. Mm-hmm. And he stayed there 2 nights in a row. Mm-hmm. That's called a 2-night stand. You heard of a 1-night stand, right? Right. Well, they were together 2 nights in a row. Maybe 2. But no one said, hey, why are you talking to her? But Jesus knew what he was up to. You don't. You don't. And what they're talking about when they're talking about water. What kind of water, too? Right? If the woman hadn't had a child yet and was barren, right? I know. Like Rachel or Sarah. Mm-hmm. I know. Did he offer her his water? And that's what he was offering her. Try my water, baby. Mm-hmm. But that'll blow your mind, won't it? Because the Catholics been telling you for 300 years or 1700 years he was a virgin. I doubt that. He wasn't associated with Apollo. No, he wasn't. Nope. No. Mm-hmm. He was supposed to be like David anyway. That gives him at least 7 women he could have been with without leaving marrying them. And taking away their reproach, which means he got them knocked up or pregnant. And the only reason they wouldn't mention it is if he had daughters with them all, I think, too. There's 2 reasons they wouldn't necessarily mention it if they knew or not. Right? One is if he only had daughters with him, and two is if they didn't really know either, right? He was just getting it on the side, you know what I mean? It's called a side piece today, too. I'm not judging Jesus. Why are you? Why are you? You're judging him and telling him he was a man who could have sex with a woman, right? And that you would have a problem if he had sex with 7 women, according to what Isaiah was talking about there. Mm-hmm. Now, this man is taking away these women's reproach by them taking on his name. You know what I mean? Yes, we know what you mean. Mm. And then we got the 7 churches in Asia, whatever that's a reference to, right? Though churches are viewed as a lady, right? And the men, the angel, right, or minister of the church, right? And then the angels in heaven are supposed to be neutral or either male or female. Mm-hmm. I know. Because they're not human nor spirit. Mm-hmm. Right. That's the point. That's the point. And religion can bog you down sometimes, right? Because people get superstitious, right? They blame sin for their problems when we're all sinners, saved by grace through faith, without works, these two dimensions, that's right. Well, maybe Paul didn't know that. When he's talking about marriage anyway, I don't know. You ever think about that? Paul was not personally associated with Jesus the whole time until a voice identified itself as Jesus whom he was persecuting, right? Of Nazareth, right? Kind of specific, huh? In Hebrew. Oh. Not Greek, by the way. Well, I only know English, so if God was to talk to me and say Jerusalem, Jerusalem, Jerusalem in 93, it would do so in English. Huh? Right. I don't know Hebrew, but that's Jerusalem. I do know that now, but right. Jerusalem, however you say it. But anyway, thinking about it, right? Quit being self-righteous about it, right?